Welcome to Medicaid Mastery, a cut above explaining the real long-term care Medicaid system.
I am your host, Evan Mack. I'm here with Tony Turbeville. This episode is what happens if you don't plan for Medicaid. Risk for waiting too long. Sir, let's get right into it. What actually happens when people wait too long to get help with Medicaid planning?
Well, they unnecessarily spend money. That's really what happens. Now, let me explain the difference between what's called pre-planning and what's called crisis planning. Many people hear you got to plan more than 5 years ahead of time. And if you don't want to have to go through, last minute hustle bustle to get things done, then it's true. You need to start more than 5 years ahead. Here's the problem with that planning. That type of planning requires the person to give up control of their money 5 years or greater from the time that they think that they might need the care. Well, generally speaking, people that are 5 years or more from the time they need the care don't think they're going to need the care at all. They know someday they will, but they can't imagine it's that soon. And most people that are doing Medicaid, they've saved $25,000 to $2 million, and they do not want to give up control of their life savings before they absolutely have to. So convincing a person to do pre-planning is difficult. Attorneys do that in estate planning, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with it, but most people just can't grab the concept of I'm going to give all my money away to some irrevocable trust that I don't control. I have to ask my kids or to do things for me. They just don't want to do it, right? So what we do is what's called crisis planning, and that means you need the Medicaid now. You have a health issue right now. You didn't do the pre-planning, or you did it less than 5 years ago, and now you need the benefits. That's what we do. People oftentimes will wait too long there, and they end up paying a nursing home or home health care agency or assisted living facility for months and sometimes years before they come to us. We can't go backwards except in a limited way, which we'll explain in another episode, but we can't go backwards and get back benefits to get you back money you've already spent. So the sooner you come in when a crisis occurs, the more money that can be saved.
So why do so many families delay this until it's already a crisis, until it's too late? What do you think some of the factors are in that?
Well, let me clarify. It's never too late unless you've spent all your money, right? If you're now broke, you had $100,000, you spent it all. Well, we can still get the Medicaid going forward, but it's too late for saving that $100,000. Short of that, it's never too late. For example, somebody, and I've had this happen many times, spent $120,000 on a nursing home over the last year or so, and they've got $200,000 left. Now they come to me. We'll help protect that $200,000, but we can't do anything about the $120,000 they've already spent. What causes them to wait, I think, is a lot of misinformation, right? They hear it can't be done, or they're going to take your assets, or they're going to take your house. They're going to do all kinds of ugly things that is somewhat true in other states, but certainly not true in Florida if you know what you're doing. So I think misinformation is one reason. Fear is tied to that misinformation. That's another reason. The other one, I think, is false hope. We're going to try to get mom or dad better and bring them home. And I think families should do that. But they should go ahead and get the Medicaid just in case. And here's a really important point. If, this process normally starts where somebody goes to the hospital and they're there for 3 days, they fell or something happened, a stroke or whatever the case may be. And then they go to the nursing home for rehabilitation, right? If they get the Medicaid while they're in for the rehab, even if they go home or back to an assisted living facility, if they do it correctly, and there's some nuances to it, they can leave that nursing home with Medicaid paying for home health care or assisted living benefits. If they don't get the Medicaid while they're in the nursing home, it's a longer, much more cumbersome process to gain those home health care or assisted living benefits. So, it's just sooner is better.
You say sooner is better. Is there a specific financial cost with procrastinating with Medicaid planning?
Yeah, so these days in Florida, and of course it depends on the nursing home and geographic region, but nursing homes run about $11,000 to $14,000 a month, right? So if you're in a nursing home, you're getting rehab. Maybe Medicare is paying for the first 20 days in full, but you don't have a supplement. Now you go to day 21, so you got to partial pay the rehab. That's $203 a day as we're talking. So that's, call it 6 grand a month, right? Then if they don't get to come home or go to assisted living, now they're in long-term care. That's 12, 13, $14,000 a month. So, you can do the math. It depends on how many months you're waiting dictates how much it costs you. If you go home and you could have had home health care, but now you have to pay for it privately, of course, it depends on how many hours of home health care you're getting. If you go back to an assisted living, and Medicaid would have paid about $1,800 a month. Well, for as long as you're in that assisted living without Medicaid, you're losing $1,800 a month, which, by the way, is a tax-free $1,800 a month. So, it adds up pretty quickly.
So you said if you know what you're doing, you can't lose your home in the state of Florida. But can you kind of maybe break that down? Why is that the case in a state like Florida? Since you said there are ways where they cannot take your home.
Sure. So in Florida, your home is a protected asset. So there's one major criteria is that you have to sign what's called a statement of intent to return. So essentially what you're saying, or the legal representative on behalf of the client is saying is, if I recover and I'm able to go home, that is the home that I'm going to, and that's the home they lived in immediately prior to needing long-term care, then that home is protected throughout their life, and even after their death, it cannot be collected back from Medicaid. So for clarification, I was saying if you know what you're doing, you can protect assets. I forget exactly how I worded it, but my point is, whatever your assets are, they are either already protected or can be protected if you know what you're doing. Meaning, if there's an asset that is not protected already by Medicaid rules, a home is, but let's say there's 100,000 in the bank. If somebody knows what they're doing, knows the rules, they can navigate around it so that $100,000 no longer is in jeopardy of having to be spent or recovered from by Medicaid.
Oh, it makes perfect sense. But you said it never. You said it's never too late, essentially. But can you share a story where being early, and taking action early made all the difference?
So kind of what I explained that attorneys will do, if you're doing it more than 5 years in advance. I have seen those cases where the family said, yes, I'm comfortable giving all my money away 5 years in advance. I have plenty of income. We'll just put the assets in this quote irrevocable trust, or go ahead and give it to the kids, however they decide to do it. Then sure, that works great. Then all we got to do is apply for the Medicaid if the person's willing to give up control. In a crisis situation, it's kind of what I explained, in that the earlier you do it, the sooner you get the Medicaid benefits. And if you get those Medicaid benefits while you're in a nursing home, it saves a lot of trouble trying to get them outside. So for example, if you get the benefits while you're in the nursing home and you go home or to assisted living with benefits, that's great. If you don't, let me explain the process. There's a waiting list. There's 11 regions in Florida under what's called the ADRC, which is the Aging and Disability Resource Centers, broken into 11 regions, 11 different names, but they all fall under that umbrella. You have to get an interview scheduled with them. That takes from 2 to 10 weeks, depending on the region, just to get the interview. Then they do the interview to determine, does the person who's needing care meet their criteria for providing the care. So they're looking for how bad is their health. They're going to score them on a 1 to 5 rating. 1s and 2s mean they don't really need much help and they're not going to get on the waiting list at all. 3s are going to remain on the waiting list for an extended period of time. 4s generally are going to come off within 4 or 5 months. 5s will generally come off in 1 or 2 months. Then you apply for Medicaid, which will take generally 90 days or so. It can be faster, it can be longer, but roughly that. And then the benefits for home health care or assisted living would begin the month following the month you get approval. So it's a 6-month run to get Medicaid minimum if everything goes, pretty much right, if you're not in a nursing home. So, and for clarification, in a nursing home, let's say you apply in June and they don't approve it till September. They're going to back pay all the way to the time of the application in June. In home health care and assisted living, that is not true. They don't start the benefits until the approval occurs and not till the first of the month following that. So if somebody has a nursing home stay, it's really, in my opinion, there's just no reason not to apply for the Medicaid coming out of the chutes. Take the time you're in there to your advantage, get the Medicaid, go home with the benefits or assisted living if you're able, because those benefits will follow the person for the rest of their life, right? As long as nobody does anything to mess up the benefits, like move money back from the kids or whatever was done to get them qualified. They go from nursing home to home health care, they're covered. They go from home health care to assisted living, they're covered. They go back to nursing home, they're covered. They go back to assisted living, they're covered. So it gives a financial safety net for long-term care for the rest of their life.
Is there any hidden costs that people should worry about, stress, the decision fatigue that could show up later and kind of surprise them?
Yeah, I think it's pretty straightforward. Usually the attorneys charge a flat fee. Most attorneys do. They say, this is what it's going to cost for my services. Our services are flat fee. The only additional fee we have is once they're approved, if they want us to continue to do annual reviews that are required for continued eligibility, report changes in finances or living arrangements. In other words, they don't want to talk or deal with Medicaid at all, they can hire us to do that. And it's $75 a month currently, which can be paid out of the Medicaid applicant's personal needs allowance, which they get $160 a month for personal needs. So we don't push that. We don't require it, but the client has the option to hire us to do that.
If a client has planning delays, in your opinion, is there a point of no return?
When they're out of money.
Okay. So just basically, we kind of covered a little bit, but the going through a lot of the money that you have can hurt you in the long run if before they come to you. Yes, correct.
Yeah, the whole point of Medicaid crisis planning is to save money. So the longer you wait to do it, the more you've spent we can't get back. So the less successful it is.
So what's one thing you wish every family understood about this kind of planning before they think they even need to?
That most of the people that are talking to them and giving them information are good-natured, good-hearted, well-intentioned, but misinformed, and just give out a lot of really bad information that can cost families a fortune. And I see that just so many times. It's heartbreaking to me when a family calls me and goes, listen, we need to apply for Medicaid. We've spent all mom's money on the nursing home. And I say, well, okay, how much did you spend? Well, we spent $300,000 over the last 2.5 years. It just breaks my heart because they could have kept that $300,000, except, short the attorney fee and my fee. But the vast majority of the money would have remained in the family.
Wow. Thank you for your time, Tony. I appreciate you.
You're so welcome. Thank you.
Thank you all for tuning in to Medicaid Mastery with Tony Turbeville. To connect with Tony, go to platben.com. That's platben.com. And don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment on your favorite podcast app. Thank you all for joining us today.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.